It's time to dive into the world where personified battleships across the globe duke it out in a game filled with female ships. What's up, Dreamer Tribe? What's up, world? I am Bianca, and this is my review for Compile Heart and Idea Factory's Azur Lane Crosswave. I say a game filled with female ships, I was not kidding. I meant that both literally and figuratively, as this game, Azur Lane Crosswave, is filled to the brim with them. For those who are unfamiliar with the title, Azur Lane started off as a mobile game developed by Chinese developers Shanghai Manju and Jaimen Yongxi, published for both iOS and the Android 3 years ago. It was later adapted into an anime which was aired last October 3, 2019. So in a way, you can get a grasp on how big a franchise this title is, and the console version hopes to capitalize on the success of its predecessors. Story-wise, people who have played the mobile game, like yours truly, or watch the anime series would be able to pick up from where the story of both iterations left off, as it follows certain story beats in those aforementioned mediums of the franchise. Those whose initial foray into the realm of these bountiful waifu-filled game need not worry, however, as even with little knowledge, players would easily be able to follow what the game is talking about and where the story is going. As a whole though, it's easy to consider this as an alternate reality to the franchise's main storyline. Without diving into spoiler territory, in Azur Lane Crosswave we follow the adventures of two new recruits, namely Shimakaze, a ditzy destroyer type ship, and Suruga, a tsundere battleship, who gets paired up with each other during a naval exercise and ends up in a battle against mass-produced fleets carrying these, well, mysterious tesseract-like cubes. This sets into motion a series of events that has the major factions of the world, namely the Sakura Empire, the Eagle Union, the Royal Navy, and the Blood Irons, embroiled in a plot made by mysterious beings known as Sirens, the basically big bad of both the mobile game and the animated versions of the franchise. As with most, if not all, Idea Factory games, the story really is simple and you can quickly discern where the plot is going with how cliched it could be. However, the fact that the story is not at all that deep is not to the game's detriment, as it is overshadowed by how crazy and quirky things can get. There really is no high-stakes tension in the game. Unlike the other counterparts of the franchise, Azur Lane Crosswave is very lighthearted in tone, and in true Compile Heart and Idea Factory fashion, have fourth-wall-breaking moments where the characters in the game themselves are aware that they are characters living within a game world. One thing I love about Compile Heart and Idea Factory games is that they provide a clean translation of the games they are publishing, and Azur Lane Crosswave is no different. Whereas some publishers leave translations with varying degrees of error, which makes one wonder if there are editors or proofreaders under their employ, this game is translated as well as one could hope for, and that helps immensely, as the draw of the game is in its characters, the consent as they are called, which can only shine beyond their character designs through how well the dialogues are handled and come across as. Speaking of character designs, Azur Lane Crosswave follows its predecessor to the T. Each of the 60+ character backgrounds and bust images are as they could be seen in the mobile version. Even the characters as they appear in the world map is similar looking to that of the mobile version. The still images that pepper the game, though few and far between, are beautifully and wonderfully made as well. I only wish that there was plenty of them than the few that we have, especially during the main story. The 2D map is as colorful as you can expect for the game and copies the same palette as its mobile counterpart. The 3D models are beautiful to behold as well. Sadly, however, though there is an abundance of characters from the Sakura Empire, there is not much when it comes to the roster of characters from the other factions, and not all characters have 3D models to them, especially not those stuck as support units. The environment where the battles happen, however, are not as breathtaking as one would hope. Though it's not one of those things that you can actually appreciate during combat, considering your attention is glued on how efficiently you can evade enemy attacks while dishing out your own. It does tend to get bland and repetitive, as there really isn't any changes in them regardless of where the battle supposedly starts from. The only variety you can find in the battle locations is the time of day and the hues of the area, as well as whether or not there are islands around. Now on to that which is the first obvious divergence of Azur Lane Crosswave from its mobile version predecessor, the gameplay. There are 4 gameplay modes to choose from. 3 of them, Story Mode, Extreme Battle Mode, and Character Episodes, play in a similar fashion as each other. The 4th gameplay mode is the Photo Mode, which basically just consists of the player selecting a specific number of characters from the roster to take pictures with. For the story and character episode modes, the gameplay consists of watching various cutscenes presented in a visual novel fashion before being thrown into sea battles against opposing armadas. Each section of these modes or chapters have varying lengths and even number of battles to complete. In my own personal playthrough, it took me about 10 hours to complete the story mode of the game. With the character episode mode, players can unlock background and character portraits upon completion, while completing the story mode unlocks the extreme battle mode in the main menu, which is simply an arcade mode where you can fight against various armadas in mock battles. Defeating a fleet unlocks the next one, with the difficulty increasing with each battle won. Depending on how you view the visual novel genre, however, you may find that the actual battles of the game are limited in the story mode, as the visual novel aspect of it takes center stage and is what makes this particular game long. Now, we've been talking about fleet battles or battles against armadas, and you may be wondering how these play out. Well, unlike the bullet hell combat that the mobile version provides, its console iteration is more of a fast-paced arena shooter game. Depending on the level, you may have to deal with mass-produced fleets first before you get to fight against any of the consen they are being controlled by. Unlike the mobile version as well, there are no automatic firing of weapons here, apart from the characters in your armada whom you are not mainly controlling. There are no auto battles either. Each weapon equipped to a female ship has their own reload times, strengths, and weaknesses, as does the ship type themselves. It is in this regard that a little bit of planning should be employed per battle. Having said that, however, there is not much need to tactically analyze each battle that comes along, as the tried and tested formula of having a higher level and better equipped items can always be depended upon to easily breeze through the game. Now, as mentioned before, there are 60 plus characters in the game, and that's not even counting the DLC ones that we currently have. These characters are not unlocked at the get-go, however, and only through completing the story mode and earning currencies to purchase them with can you unlock them. Each time you unlock a character, there is a chance that you may also unlock a character episode. Note that not all characters have their own character episodes. Another draw this game has is that you can pledge an oath to a ship of your choice, or to all of them if you so desire. Pledging an oath is essentially this game's way of saying you can marry the consen that you like, though doing so is not as simple a process as one may hope. It requires copious amounts of grinding and making use of the character you want to marry not only during battles but also as a secretary, which is the character that appears at the menu. You can also awaken a ship, which is a game's version of limit breaking a character beyond their level cap. Though the game can be a lot of fun and there is a replayability factor to it in terms of grinding to get a higher level or raising a consent's affection or in trying to get better equipment, the game can get quite tiring because of its repetitive nature. In a sense, there is not much flavor in the battles, and once you fought a couple of them, you've basically fought them all. It doesn't help that raising a character's affection requires you to farm for items related to their characters, and that in order to awaken a character, you would need to get their level up to 100. Now imagine doing that for 60 plus characters, it can really get tedious. There's no English dub to the game though, which can be a deal breaker to some. The entire game only caters Japanese voices, but each character's voice fits with their personality well, and the voice actresses playing each character are the same as the ones in their mobile version counterpart. Overall, Azur Lane Crosswave can boast about its well-written, charming narrative and characters, as well as great visuals, especially the 2D aspects of it. Though it is fun to see the characters interact in a lot more lighthearted manner than what I am initially used to through the mobile version of the game is quite bogged down by how monotonous the combat is and how shallow the battles can be. It is with this in mind that I am giving Compile Heart and Idea Factory's Azur Lane Crosswave a 7.5 out of 10. Which is basically just saying that I personally enjoyed it, but I find that there is much room for improvement, especially in the game's combat. This is another one of those titles where if you're already a fan of the series, then this is certainly going to be a must-buy, especially with the introduction of the new characters in the franchise. It can also be a good enough launching pad for those who are new to the series as well, provided that you are a fan of the visual novel genre. It may also pique the interest of those searching for some new waifus to add to their growing list or pile. Otherwise, if you are looking for an arena shooter game or a bullet hell game that is flavored and spiced by anthropomorphic animal girls that has more depth and customization, then you may have to look elsewhere than this spin-off title. Heck, maybe give the mobile game a try. It has a much deeper tactical gameplay to it after all. And that's about it for my review for Azur Lane Crosswave. I hope I was able to shine even a little bit of light for those of you who are curious about this title and how this game plays. So, are you guys going to give this game a try, or maybe its mobile game counterpart? If you already have, then who's your favorite consent? If it's a mobile game we're talking about, mine would have to be a toss-up between the Eagle Union's Enterprise, the Iron Blood's Bismarck, and the Northern Parliament's Sovetskaya Russia. Damn, that's a very hard name to pronounce. So yeah, who's your favorite consent? Tell me on the comment section below, and I'll see you all in the next video. Until then, you guys know the drill. Dream on, fly on. Bye-bye now. Alright, first off, thank you so much for joining me in today's video. If you like the content of today's video, don't forget to hit that thumbs up to let me know, and share this video to your friends, your family, and everyone you think would enjoy it. And if you haven't, please click the subscribe button to subscribe to my channel and become part of the Dreamer Tribe. And if you've already subscribed and you want to get notified whenever new videos come out, then just click on that bell icon and you'll get notifications whenever new videos are posted here on this channel. And that's about it. Again, hit the subscribe button and the bell icon, and I'll see you all in the next video. Until then, you guys know the drill. Dream on, fly on. Bye bye now.